Hi, this is Chaplain Tyler, and you're watching this video and you got this with Tyler. I've been relating some of my more challenging situations and situations where I've learned the most. And the one I'm going to talk about today definitely was difficult. It wasn't difficult in terms of the specific nature of what it was I was dealing with. The issue that was so complicated, there were two parts. One, I knew the family from way before. And the second part about this that was really tough was that I had the nurses had called me as a chaplain, but didn't let the family know because the nurses were upset with the family situation. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Well, let's see where to begin. I was on call for a trauma hospital, and I got a call in the evening of a weeknight, or of a weekend night. It was a Saturday or a Sunday, I believe. I think it was a Sunday. And when I called the hospital, the nurse told me that there was a lady who was dying, and the nurses were very upset because she refused to tell her family that she was dying. And I mean, it wasn't just, hey, she's got several months or a year to live. No, she had a week or two at most, and that was it. And the lady's response was, they don't need to know, and they'll be fine. When the nurses, in their caring and compassion, they knew a family was not going to be fine, and that this was, although it was the patient's choice, it wasn't going to be the best outcome emotionally for the family. They didn't have any prep time. They weren't going to be able to journey with the patient, and it was just not going to be good. So, on that, I came into the hospital, came up to the unit, and knocked on the door and heard a hello, and I walked on in. To my amazement and horror, I knew the family. The patient's son was a long-time family friend from the church that I had grown up in. And there is something different and difficult when you know somebody. The normal therapeutic relationship is one where you establish trust and you start out at a kind of a baseline. In this situation, I didn't start out from a baseline. I started out from a different kind of position. I didn't know if it was negative. I didn't know if it was positive. I had no clue. And they were seeing me in a very different role because I had grown up in that church with them. But here I was coming in as an authority. And it's really hard for somebody to work with that normally. So after I got over my shock, I talked with the family. There was 3 of them there, and I talked with the patient. She was there, and I just introduced myself. And now this became even more difficult because, again, the family didn't know that I had been called and why I had been called. And I needed to honor and respect their process and their boundaries, while at the same time I'm trying to figure out how to calm the nurses and make sure that they're going to be okay. What the nurses wanted was for the patient to tell the family that she was dying. What the patient wanted was to be left alone. What the family wanted was to be informed of what was happening appropriately. So I just kind of hung around and just got to know them and, see how things were going and that kind of thing. Then about an hour later, orderlies came to go take the patient to go get, I believe it was an X-ray or an MRI. And so I just gently came with them. And it was at that moment that I was able to address a little bit of the issue with the patient, and was able to say, so how serious is this? You know, and entered into that kind of conversation with her and talked to her gently about, well, do you think maybe it would be good and honoring to and help your family's process if they knew kind of how serious it was? And her response was the same as that had been given to the nurses, which was, no, it's fine. They're going to be fine. They don't need to know. Okay. I let it go. And they took her down to test, to the testing area. And I came back and talked with the family while we waited. And I can't say how serious the situation is because that's giving away patient confidentiality. That's also giving a treatment, potentially, or a diagnosis, which I cannot give as a chaplain. That is only for the medical doctors to give. So what I ended up doing was having a difficult, roundabout, non-serious, yet serious conversation about we never know how things are going to go. We don't have an idea of when somebody may be faced with something more serious than what we think it is. And I tried really hard to let them know to start to prepare without letting them know to start to prepare, if that makes any sense. It was like I was doing a dance. I don't have any other way to describe it. I was dancing around the issues. There was not the time at that point. It was not the time, and I did not have the ability at that time to actually address the specific issues. It just wasn't possible. So I had to wait and do my little dance with everybody and just hope that something changed. Well, luckily, once the patient came back, maybe somebody said something down there to her. Maybe she had time to think about what I had said and the effect that her not saying anything to her family would have. I don't know. But she decided to tell the family that she was not going to be, according to the medical doctor, she was not going to be able to live that much longer. And so the family did have time to prepare, and the family did work with and journey with her, and she stayed in hospital for the next, I want to say probably week and a half, and then she died. I was able to tell the nurses that the patient finally did say something to the family. The nurses were immensely relieved and thanked me very much for being able to arrange that. I don't know if I did or not. I just did what I could. And the relationship with the family was always just a little bit odd because they knew me from when I was a child. And maybe that's just me saying that. It just felt odd. But the outcome was good. And I'm very thankful for that. There are situations that we get into in healthcare that we can't predict. When we know somebody, it complicates the situation a lot. If we're very close to them, then our own grief and trauma of seeing them in that situation comes into play. Luckily, I didn't have that in this case. I wasn't that emotionally close to them. But it still was difficult. And even more so because, again, the nurses called me because they were in distress and wanted me to do something about their distress. Maybe in retrospect, maybe I could have said to the nurses, it's the patient's choice. But that doesn't always work. It doesn't always address the issues. The issue here was the nurse's distress. And if I would not have made the attempt, I don't know if it would have affected their trust in me. I don't know. I do know that I greatly valued their trust as a chaplain, and I wanted to do everything I could to try to help. And that's what I did. So complicated, difficult, challenging. Again, I did a dance. I don't tend to dance as a rule, but on that one I did. And the outcome was good. So thank God. But be aware, when there are situations that are like that, it is crazy. It can be crazy making, and it can be very difficult to work through the emotions that come. And luckily, I haven't had very many situations where I've had to come and support someone that I knew. That's probably the biggest one that I remember. So anyways, that's kind of the life of a chaplain. It just happens that way sometimes, and I'm glad that things worked out for the best. I hope this gives you an idea that sometimes there's a lot of gray areas when it comes to working in healthcare, and as a chaplain, we have to be extremely careful of our boundaries and our professionalism. And I skirted the line on that one quite a bit, I think, between what was ethically good and therapeutically good. I guess I'll know more, maybe not in this life, but maybe in the next. In any case, I hope this has been interesting and educational for you, and I will catch you again on the next video. You guys take care. Remember, I see you, I believe in you, and you got this. This is Chaplain Tyler signing off. Take care.